Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to episode number 33 of the Jeff Knows Inc. show. We got a special guest on today, Ricky Cucalon from San Francisco. Rick started the ATM Movement, which is about the millions. This guy is an inspirational young entrepreneur with a great story, great vision, and a great future. Everybody sit back and enjoy. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. We got a special guest from San Francisco today, Ricky Cucalon. Ricky is the CEO of ATM, and we're going to get Ricky to kind of introduce what this all is and how this movement has taken place and where it's all come from and get to know Ricky and his story. So I'm excited to have Ricky on. It's a pleasure to have him on. Ricky, say hi to the audience for us, brother.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you, Jeff, for having me. It's definitely, very humbling. And yeah, I'm here, I'm here to pretty much tell you guys a little bit more about myself. So check it out. I'm a civil engineer. I graduated from SF State. And I remember the reason why I went to school, first of all, was because, I always asked my parents, how do I become successful? And they told me that the way for me to become successful was by going to school. And that's what I did. So I went to SF State. I didn't do business because I knew that I wasn't going to, land an easy job. So I had to do a hard major. So I did civil engineering. And I remember the day I graduated, I remember, the ceremony, I was getting my diploma. I remember seeing my dad crying, out of happiness. He was really proud of me. And at that point, I felt like in my head, I was like, man, I made it. I'm successful, right? And before, it was a little embarrassing though, but now I'll just tell you, a week later, after I graduated from SF State, I realized that I wasn't successful. And how did I realize when I started applying for jobs? It took me about 6 months for me to get my first job. And the first job that I got was all the way in Monterey. If you're from San Francisco, Monterey is like almost 4 hours away from the Bay. I remember, waking up every day in the morning about, 4:30 in the morning. My kid at that time, he was 4 years old. I'll get my kids on the head. He'll be sleeping and I'll go to work. And I remember I'll come back from work about 11, 12, a.m. And in other words, the only times I was seeing my kid was over the weekends, right? And whenever he wanted to play with me, I was way too tired. I couldn't even play with him. I was way too tired. I just wanted to sleep. So what made me, want to take the opportunity to become an entrepreneur was pretty much not just the money, because, at that point in my life, I'll be honest with you, man, I was very close-minded. I had a big ego. When you have a big ego, it's because you want to cover something, right? What I wanted to cover was that even though I was a civil engineer, I was broke. My bank account was on zero. I was, pretty much all the money that I was making, it was going towards my student debt. So I was paying my bills. I didn't have extra money. And what I can tell you is that I decided to become an entrepreneur. But before, the entrepreneurial thoughts got in my head, I remember, I was exposed to a thing called Bitcoin. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Bitcoin. So I'll tell you a story. Bitcoin. I used to work at Apple. I remember, and there was a couple of Indian customers that walked in the store, and they were like, "Hey, you guys accept Bitcoin?" And I was like, "Bitcoin? What is that?" Right? And they tried to explain it to me. At that point, I was like, "Man, I don't understand nothing. I don't know what blockchain is, whatever, So I let it go. And what I can tell you is that later on, I started doing my research, and I was like, yo, what is this Bitcoin thing? I remember the only thing that I got from that conversation was that Bitcoin was only $30 per coin. So I was like, whatever, let it go, right? So later on, when I was, like,
What I'm gonna jump in there, Ricky. What year was this in roughly?
that was like back in 2015.
Okay.
So
that was right before Bitcoin really took off.
Yeah, I mean, it had like, okay, so it had two spikes. The first one went to $1,000, and then it went back to shit. So it was right, during that time. Yeah. So then I was like, later on 2016, I was like, hey, I was looking for ways for me to actually, like become an entrepreneur, right? And I remember that thing. I remember Bitcoin. I was like, yo, I'm gonna check it out, I'm gonna pay attention. This time I'm gonna try to learn it, right? So I did my research, and I saw that the price went from $30 to $400. And at that point, when I saw that, I felt like in my head, I was like, man, I'm hella stupid. I missed out on the opportunity of actually investing. So, but at that point in my life, I was actually dead broke. I didn't have any money, right? But there's two type of people. There's the people that they say, yo, I'm not gonna invest because I don't have the money, and they buy that excuse. And there's the type of people that go like, hey, yo, even though I don't have the money, I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna get it, right? So I'm that type of person. I'm the type of person that always find a way. That's my DNA. So what I can tell you is that I ended up selling my car. I had a Honda. I sold it. And I was able to buy 18 Bitcoins. Each Bitcoin cost me about $800 per coin. And I remember at first it didn't move. I remember like going to my parents, telling them, yo guys, I sold my car, about Bitcoin. My dad at first, he was like, Bitcoin, how many cylinders? And I was like, what are you talking about? My dad thought that Bitcoin was a car. And I was like, no, it's not a car. I tried to explain it, I was like, yo, it's cryptocurrency, this and that. He looked at me, and then he goes like, man, you guys scam, right? So at first, I'm not gonna lie to you, man, it was kind of hard because nobody in my family, believed me. Nobody in my family, like had faith on me. But I had the vision. I had the vision. I had the vision of actually, doing something different because I wanted to get different results. And also, I was desperate though, because like I didn't want to live the life of an employee. I wanted to be free because I want to spend time with my kid. So Bitcoin went up. That was in 2017. It went up from $800 all the way to $20,000. I was able to make, from an investment that was less than $20,000, I made over $500,000. And I remember the day actually I saw that it was December 19, 2017. And the reason why I remember this date is because it's my birthday. And I remember checking on my crypto wallet and seeing my gains, right, that I went to $500,000. And what I can tell you, Jeff, is that day, the first thing that I did, I had to go to work. That day, I called my boss and I fired my boss. So I was like, quit, I'm good, like, thank you. And I didn't know, like, at first it was, it was like, it's kind of like I was so happy that I'm like, fuck,
it's essentially the entrepreneurial dream, right? That's what you're trying to accomplish, and a lot of people don't realize that. Like, I'm a strong believer: either you're an entrepreneur or you're not. And there's people that need guidance, people and they need a push. But if you have it in your blood, you have it in your DNA, it's going to happen. Whether there takes a moment in your life when it just clicks and it's like, okay, this is the moment, and it happens. And obviously that was your moment, right? And it's inspiring to see how you, like many entrepreneurs, even though you could have said, hey, you know what, I'm gonna stick with what my parents say, I'm gonna stick with the 9-to-5 job. You took a chance and you went with it, and look where you are now. So congrats on that, brother.
Thank you. Most definitely, man. Most definitely. Thank you. And then, yeah, you said it right. It's more like it was one of I'll say my first milestone in my whole, journey. And what I can tell you is that it was kind of like my FU moment,
Yeah.
Like I was like, to all the people that didn't believe in me, to all my doubters, my haters, me telling them, yo, I told you guys, But it felt great though, ever since my mind changed, and I decided to actually, like, not to exchange time for money. I knew that the way for me to actually build wealth was by, investing my money and having my money making more money. So that's the beginning of who I am.
I'm gonna jump back. We're gonna get into your ATM movement in a bit. I just want to jump back to family. How old were you when you had is it a son or a boy or girl?
I got two boys.
You got two boys. How old are your boys?
So one of them, Ricky, 7.
Ricky, okay, good.
My other one, his name is Blake, and he's about to be 2.
Okay, 7 and 2. So how old were you when you had Ricky?
Let's see, I was like 23.
Yes, you're a baby still too, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
you were in school already when you had Ricky.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard, man. There's a lot of pressure on a young person because you have another mouth to feed. Everything changes when you have kids, and for all young entrepreneurs, you're going to realize that very quickly. Once you have kids, everything, your priorities all change. It's now everything you do is your child thoughts are first. It could be anything. I'm gonna go to the store. It's not I'm gonna go to the store. Does Ricky have a jacket on? Does Ricky have a shoe? It's everything in life changes. So for a 23-year-old to finish his school, to take a risk, I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Congrats on your success, because it's hard, man. It's not fucking easy to do this shit. And I appreciate that, right? And as a father, you said it. It's you realize as your kids are getting older, your son's 7 now. So my 2 are 14 and 12. So your son's 7 now. You start realizing and appreciating the time you have with them. You appreciate hanging out with them at this age. So you realizing, hey, I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm kissing my kids goodbye, and I'm coming back, and I don't do anything with them, is a reality check. And that maybe that was one of your incentives to do what you do. So which is a great little part of your story as well. Let's jump into the ATM movement. How did you inspire to take what you've learned and start building it into a movement?
Most definitely. And just like to touch on something that you said about, family.
Yeah, 100% by that.
I'm very, passionate when it comes to that. And what
So am I.
So one of my main, like reasons of me, becoming an entrepreneur was, looking for that freedom so I can actually, raise my kids. What I can tell you, man, is that I come from a family where, my dad, he's a former police officer back in my home country in Peru. And what I can tell you is that like I remember when I was a kid, like I'll see my dad like every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? When you're a kid, usually when you're a boy, you want to be like your dad, because you're like, that's your role model, right? That's your hero.
100%.
I didn't want to be like my dad. I wanted to be like my mom, because most of my time I wasn't spending with my dad. I was spending with my mom. And what I can tell you is that like I didn't want to make the same mistake. I didn't want to sacrifice my family for a job. So what I can tell you is that one of the things that motivated me for me to actually become an entrepreneur was that, and now that I can tell you, man, that this 2020, there's a lot of people complaining about 2020. What I can tell you is that so far for me, man, it has been great. I made the most money, and also was able to, spend a lot of quality time with my kids. It's funny because my kid, my 7-year-old Ricky, he thinks that I'm a YouTuber, because he always see me on the computer working, doing calls, because I'm always, part of my business, I'm always, doing calls, this and that. Yeah. But it's fun though. It's fun to play, Fortnite with them, to play, with my kids. I love it, man. And I wouldn't change that for anything.
And you realize very quickly, like I'm looking at my daughter, like I said, my daughter's 14. She goes to high school next year, buddy. I can't even gasp how fast the last 14 years have gone. And it flies by, man. You got to make use of the time. I'm a strong believer in family time. Like one thing about myself, I think spend time with my son. I coach his baseball team. I work 18, 16-hour days. I still coach my son's baseball team. I'm home every single night for dinner. I don't give a shit what I got to do. Dinner time is always at my house with my kids, and I make sure I'm home with them every night. And we go on our 2 vacations a year, and weekends are always there. You have to, because it's and even with my parents, like my parents live around half an hour from where I am, and I make sure I go see them all the time, because you don't want to be in a situation when something happens in your life. And I always say this, Ricky, something happens in your life, and then I always hear people like, oh, I wish I did this shit. I wish I should fucking do it. Don't make excuses. Just do it now. You don't want to be in a situation you regret it, whether it's spending time with your family, spending time with your kids. Just do it, man. Just do it. So I appreciate that. I keep going back because I want to dip more into your story. You were born in Peru?
Yes.
What age did you come to? How was growing up in Peru? First off,
growing up in Peru is different. I see a lot of people complaining here in the U.S. Talking about y'all don't have this. My Wi-Fi is too slow. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like growing up in Peru, man, was for me was humbling. I love it. I wouldn't change it for nothing. If I had to go back in time, I'll live it. The way it was. Because, growing up in Peru taught me to actually be who I am today. And what I can tell you is that, I'll give you an example. I remember when I was a kid, okay, when I was like about, 10, 11, I remember I couldn't sleep. And the reason why I couldn't sleep, it wasn't because I was drinking too much coffee. I didn't even drink coffee or Red Bull. But the reason why I couldn't sleep was because, every time I'll go to sleep, whenever my dad will come home, my dad and my mom, every time it'll be, the same fight.
Yeah.
And the fights, man, I remember those fights were like, punching the wall, stuff like that,
Yeah.
And I remember the same arguments, my mom and my dad, like arguing about we don't have enough money to pay electricity, we don't have enough money, to pay the bills, we don't have, we don't have enough money to pay school, a lot of things that I heard, and what I can tell you is that at 10 years old, I decided to do something, So what I did, I remember I'll tell my mom I'll go play soccer. I'll be like, I'm gonna go play soccer with my friends, right? What I did instead, I'll grab a bucket, I'll grab, soap, I'll grab rags, and I'll go and wash cars. And I remember my mom, she used to have, like a table in the kitchen. It was a white table. And I remember every time I'll come home, like all the money that I used to make, I'll put in her purse. I remember one time I overhear my aunt talking, and my mom was telling my aunt, hey, I think Virgin Mary get into the house. Every time I check my purse, I see money. But it wasn't the Virgin Mary, it was me though, right? And I remember, like one day, a nice BMW pulled up, and I asked, sir, can I wash your car? And he said yes. So I was about to start washing the car, and then from the passenger side, somebody got out of the car, and I looked up, and it was my dad. So that day I got the worst ass whooping of my whole life. I still remember. It was brutal, but at that point in my life, it was already too late. I knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So the next day I went back to work again, but this time I went to a different block. So with that being said, it's crazy though that you mentioned, how's growing up in Peru. I think, it made me who I am today.
It's your building blocks, brother.
Exactly. It showed me that either, you could be an ex-spectator, or you could be or you could be the main, the main actor in your story, So at the end of the day, it's either you can watch it happen or you can do something about it. So
yeah, it's I had a guest on the other day, and we were having this conversation about things that occur now that you're in. How old are you now, Ricky?
I'm 31.
31. You're a fucking baby still. You can look back now and as an entrepreneur, think of things that occurred when you were a kid. And I can name probably top 10. The first company I started was when I was 16. I can name probably 10 things I did when I was a kid, where I would get sport cards and hit shows and hustle and sell them and come back with $50 on that weekend. Or I would do stuff to always to hustle to make money. When I was 13, when my friends were all partying and having fun in the summer, I was working. My mom used to be at a daycare assistant, and I used to go there and work part-time just to make enough to put money aside and have money to spend. And I always hustle. And now I look back at those things, and now as an adult, I can say, shit, man, those are like stepping stones to where I was, and I never knew it. So now I look at my daughter. My daughter is a hustler, total hustler. She's 14, and at like 8, 9 years old, she's in her house making bracelets, and I see her filling her bag up, like this is years ago, filling her bag of bracelets and I'm going, where are you going with that, hun? She goes, I'm going to school, Dad. I sell them for $4 a bracelet to all my friends. And I'm like, fuck, good for you. She's a hustler every time. Like yesterday, she was on the computer. I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, I'm doing surveys, 50 cents a survey. If I do this many surveys, I'm going to make this much money per week. And I'm like, she's on summer break. And I'm like, good for you. Right. So I could see it naturally that she's going to be an entrepreneur. And it's your footy. Those things that you washing a car, you were an entrepreneur. And I always say to people are like, how do you describe an entrepreneur? A drug dealer at a corner is an entrepreneur. An artist that paints and goes to a local market and sells their paintings on a street is an entrepreneur. They're at different levels, different degrees, but they're entrepreneurs. And it's just finding your niche. And as you develop and grow, and if you're smart and you're a hard worker, hard work cannot define nothing. You're a hard worker, everything comes together. It's like you did, right? Everything came together. What age did you come to the U.S.?
When I was like 12, 13.
So your whole family moved?
Everybody moved. So it was more like, because of my dad's, my dad is a former police officer. So
he had a good job. So he gave up a good job for.
He was actually, it was kind of like a difficult, life experience because, the whole family kind of like, it was more like we were forced to move, you know what I mean? Because of my dad's job. Because my dad, he wasn't a regular cop. He was a special cop, like an undercover. He was actually, I don't know if you know anything about, the drug wars that were happening in Colombia and Peru.
It's massive. Yeah, of course. There's so many stories on that.
My dad was fighting terrorism. So the reason why
the more to protect the family.
Exactly. It wasn't like a choice. Let's go to, because, at the end of the day, man, if I would have, if I would have stayed in Peru, bro, I know that I would have had become an entrepreneur anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. One way or the other. When your dad, I'm totally off topic here, brother, but I like your story. When your parents came to America, what job did your dad get? Because obviously he left a good career. What did he do to get there? What was he working?
So it was super hard. It was super hard because, I was supporting the family out here, I got a job when I was, I got a job. And I remember, like my dad, he was older. He, it's harder for him to adapt. So I remember I'll get jobs as a busboy. And, I remember, after school, I always had a job, it's like, you see a lot of kids, after school, they go play sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I love sports.
I was the same way, brother.
Don't get me wrong, but I had to go to work. I remember I will, in my backpack, you'll take my backpack. I'll have my pants, my shirt, my white shirt, and my black shoes for work. So I remember after school, get on the bus and go to work. I'll get off of school at 3, get on the bus 3:15, get to work by 3:45, work until 11. So work Monday through Friday, one job as a busboy, and then Saturday and Sunday I'll try, go wash cars. I will always try, to stay active, to hustle, to make money, to help support the family. At first, my dad couldn't find a job, so it was us, actually making it happen. But eventually he was able to find a job. But I remember the days where my family and I, we didn't even have a house. Okay, we will live in a garage, and I remember, it'll get super cold. Damn, man, I'm getting deep right now because it's bringing memories back. I remember that my dad. And I'm, it'll be that cold that we'll have a blanket and we'll have to hug each other because, it was really cold, yeah, I mean, it's part of the struggle, but
it made you the man you are right now, brother. It's, you know what, but you, as much as struggle, and I'm sure you're going to say the same thing, everything had a reason to happen. I'm a strong believer. I don't know if you're a religious person. I'm not a religious person, but I am a believer in everything happens for a reason. And I believe in karma. So I believe in everything happens for a reason. And all those things as a family made you appreciate each other more. And all those things built you stronger. That the average shit that bothers people every day, those people that play victim every day, those people that are, oh, this, oh, that, or, oh, all that shit is puts a thick freaking skin layer on your ass, right? And it just makes you who you are. So appreciate, as hard as it is, appreciate it, man, because it's who you are, man. It's your story, man. It's a beautiful story. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I got 2 sisters.
How, younger or older?
are, I'm very bad with ages. So
Yeah, but they're younger though, I'm assuming.
they're younger than me. So
Yeah.
one of them I think is 25, and the other one is 15.
So you were the like almost like the man of the house.
I mean, pretty
Yeah.
much.
That's a lot. That's a lot on your age, man. That's a lot on your age, right? And people don't realize the struggle people go through, the story people go through, right? It is, they look at you now and they're like, oh, this guy is a social media star. He's making money. He's had all these nice cars.
Right.
Look what took me to get here, man. Shit it doesn't happen overnight, man. It's a journey. It's a journey, man. I love your story, brother. So it's like I said, it's a hard story. But everybody has it. All it does is build character, man. Let's get into let's get into your ATM movement. Let's hear some positive stuff now. How did this start? When did that all start? When you start saying, hey, I got to start teaching people this?
Okay, so then I realized, once I made money with cryptocurrency, I was like, yo, it's fun, making, money. But then I realized that people, like the learning curve, it was, like high, because a lot of people couldn't even understand what's Bitcoin. They couldn't even, you mentioned cryptocurrency and they will be like, yo, what is that? Like, how do you eat that? So
quick question. Do you find that still happening? Because a lot of people are still, I find, unfamiliar with it.
It's adjusting, yeah. But I think, we're at a point, I mean, thanks to this pandemic, like Bitcoin and, cryptocurrency trading has been booming because, a lot of people got a lot of free time now. So a lot of people are more willing to actually, look for information or, kind of like get down to learn because they don't have, they already got sick of watching Netflix every day. So they're like, man, might as well, look into anything. So what I can tell you is that I saw the learning curve and I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe, like there's something we can actually work with. There's something that we can bring to the masses. And then why I created the ATM movement 2 years ago? Because, like at first, I'm not going to lie to you, I wanted to take the opportunity to Latin America. I had no plans to actually do nothing here in the U.S. I was like, man, people out here, they're just too, like, how do you call, like, people entitled, people out here too much, they're entitled, they don't want to work, this and that. So they don't have the mindset. So that's how I used to think before, right? Mm-hmm. So I created the ATM. I went to Latin America. I booked a flight to Peru. And the reason I'm going to explain you how everything happened. So when I created the ATM movement, which ATM stands for about the millions, it's not about the millions of dollars, but it's about the millions of lives that we actually going to impact, the people that we're going to help, the information we're going to give them, how we're going to teach those people how to make money from a different way, smart money. So I booked a flight to Peru, and the reason why I did it was because, I was moving social media. I was posting ads on Instagram, and I got a lot of people, from Latin America asking me, yo, what is that? I want to get into that, this and that. And I remember that was my second leap of faith. I booked a flight to Latin America years after, like being here, and my whole family is here, Latin America, Peru, like I got, I don't really have family out there. You know what I mean? All my family is here. So what I can tell you, I went there and, I did my first events teaching people how to, get involved with cryptocurrency, and they were a success, like a lot of people showed up. I'm from Peru, then I went to Ecuador. From Ecuador, then I went to Costa Rica. From Costa Rica, I went to Chile, went to Argentina. I was out of my house for about almost 5 months. Wow. Traveling. I mean, check this out. Like my fiance, she wanted to leave me. She was like, yo, what are you doing? This just not gonna work, this and that, right? I was sacrificing time away from my kids, but I had a vision. I was like, yo, there's something out here that might work. You know what I mean? So I believed in myself. I took, a leap of faith, and I'm stuck to the plan. And what I can tell you is that I saw the results. I saw, the ATM movement became popular in Latin America. Started shooting videos. Started, like growing the team. And it became viral to the point where, like say, for example, you go to Peru, you go to Ecuador, Colombia, you see a lot of people wearing ATM hats. like there's a lot of people that rock the ATM hats. And what I can tell you, man, one of my goals, like, is like, I'm gonna get you one of the ATM hats. I don't have one of me because every time I wear it, I give it away. But I'm gonna get you one.
I appreciate that.
One of my goals is to get the ATM hat to be more famous than the Yankees hat. And a lot of people tell me I'm crazy, but just check it out, man. I'm gonna make it happen. So at the end of the day, the reason why I created the ATM movement was because, I wanted to help people, but at the same point, I knew that me by just marketing myself, not everybody was gonna connect with me. Some people like could have been like, yo, I don't like the way he talks, I don't like the way he dresses, etc.
Of course, yeah.
I was like, you got to create a movement so people can actually, that relate to the movement, not just to Ricky Cucalon, right?
Yes.
So I created the movement. The reason why I call it the ATM, because think about it. Whenever you see ATM, what do you think of?
Money.
Cash. And then I'm getting free advertising when people like go, like to any store, they see an ATM machine, they already think about me, you know what I mean? So I'm getting free advertisement. I mean, it's crazy because all the vision that I had is happening. Like I get people, like a lot of people, like posting, like they think that the ATM machines are mine. So it's just, free advertising, it's good branding. I consider myself, I think, myself of somebody who's really good at marketing. And what I can tell you is that at first it was online America, but then, like I started looking around and I was like, yo, people out here, like maybe I have the wrong, like concept of people out here, because I saw a lot of people that were actually, looking for opportunities. So I decided to actually, expand the ATM movement here in the US. What I can tell you, man, is that the movement is growing. We have, people in the Bay Area. We have a lot of people in the Bay Area. We have a lot of people in Los Angeles. We have only been doing the ATM here in the US for less than 6 months.
And it's fairly new.
Exactly. It's fairly new. It's already growing. So,
yeah.
Like in the next 6 months, this thing is going to be blowing up.
So your ATM movement is essentially you're running events, teaching your methods and educating people about Coinbit and whatnot, right?
Exactly. So we partnered up with a company. It's called iMasters Academy, which is a company, a trading company. And the reason why I partnered with them is because, think about it. I don't want to be, like be dealing with the legal stuff,
Yeah, of course.
We have a good company, a solid company that actually takes care of like the platform and everything. So what we did is, we pretty much take care of like spreading the word, but at the same time is creating the culture. You know what I mean? Like showing people that it's more like a community. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the movement is like people like it's not about just joining a company and you're on your own. It's joining the company and you have a whole community out here ready to help you, walk you through, show you, share, information between us, celebrate between us. At the end of the day, it's all about empower each other. And at my last event that I had an event in Oakland. I remember I asked, like the people, the guests that came by, and I was like, what was the thing that you like the most? People were like, yo, we love the culture. We love the way, people like the energy, people empower each other. It's a good environment to actually learn something new. And at the same time, it's like, we're not telling you, yo, you're going to get rich quick. It's none of that shit. But it's more like, yo, it's a new skill. It's a new way. It's something that you can add to your skill set, So it's definitely something that I really, like I'm passionate about.
So let me just get some more info on it. So once people do your seminar or your event, are they part of a membership? Do you still work with them? Or is this once you teach them the teachings, they go on their own?
So check it out. So once they have the option, they can join. So they will, like get a membership with the company, iMasters Academy. Yeah. And they decided, to join and, we'll work with them. We'll, help them with everything from the basics to the advanced. But our goal, as the big difference between us and I'll say, everybody else, or I'll say that I don't like to compare myself to others, but I'll say that the special thing about us is that we're in the business, not just because of money. I already made money. There's different ways. I got other investments. I mean, I'm making money, but it's all about taking the message and actually making an impact. It's all about showing the regular people, the regular person, the regular Joe, showing them that there's a better way. Because a lot of people think about it, man. A lot of people think that the only way for them to actually become successful is by going to school. You know what I mean? It's by getting in debt. It's by, if you don't get good grades, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of geniuses out there. There's a lot of geniuses that are getting discouraged because they don't have the information, because they don't have that person telling them, hey, yo, maybe, you're a genius at this, not at that. You know what I mean?
Let me jump in there, Ricky. I did a whole podcast on just entrepreneurs and whatnot. It was one of my first podcasts. And what I did was I actually talked about myself. I went to college for some fitness courses because my parents pushed me, but I've always been self-employed. I always had my own companies. I've always been doing my own stuff. And until this day, my mom, I'm 43, asked me to go back to school and take an education. It's just that mindset. And I'm a strong believer in, if you're an entrepreneur, education means nothing unless you're going to be, in your case, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. University is a complete waste of time because you're going to go spend 4 to 6 years of your life. You're going to put yourself in such debt. And what are you going to do is the next 5, 6 years, work for somebody, helping them get rich while you're paying off your debt. And then by the time you know, you're married, you got kids, you're in your 30s, and it's just wake up, get your lunch, go to work, come home, wake up. It's a fucking routine you do the rest of your life. And you have no choice because you have this debt. It becomes this cycle and people don't know how to get out of it. So I'm a strong believer in even young entrepreneurs. If you do want to go to school and you do believe in education, there's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? Give your dream a shot for a year or 2 years. Make it happen. You don't put yourself in a situation where you become in this vicious cycle and you can't get your ass out of after.
And you said it right. It's a cycle. Also, society kind of like push that down your throat.
100%.
At the same time, it's like it's getting in debt, man. It's a whole trap, But look, at the end of the day, like I understand, we have our opinions, but what I can tell you, man, is that, like, say for example, me with my kids, right? I'm not gonna force my kids to go to college. If they don't want to go to college, perfect. Doesn't matter. Work with me or follow your passion, but at the same time, it's more about, how is everything going to change? Like how is life, how's the life that we know today is going to change tomorrow? How is it going to change? By protesting? We tried that before. I believe that the best way for you to actually make sure that life is going to change in the future is by you changing your household. So going back to whatever is like the hot topics right now, the racism and whatever's happening here in the U.S. The best way we're going to eliminate racism is by, you got to start eliminating racism at your house. At your house, eliminate at your house. Don't talk about, don't talk about people. Eliminate the concept of calling people a black man or a white man or a Latino man. He's a man. Eliminate those words. Start eliminating those words from your household, and you're gonna see the change. But change is gonna take time. But at the same time, when is a better time to start? It's today. And
always start today, no matter what it is.
Change,
Yeah, no, 100%, brother. Yeah. I mean, there's so much pictures on social media, and you see a little baby shaking a hand of another gentleman, all this, and it's like you're not born racist.
Exactly.
It's exactly what you said. It's your household, your upbringing, and your environment you're in, right? And changing that. But it's not going to happen overnight, because I'm a strong believer in it's you're not going to eliminate racism. It's always going to be some way or another there. And it's sad as it is, just we have to just change one person at a time, and eventually over time, hopefully the majority of the people are not racist and everybody lives in a happy society, right? It's just the way it is. Like, I grew up in a multicultural environment. Like, my high school in Toronto we were the best basketball team in the city. We had blacks, we had Latinos, we had Orientals. I'm Portuguese, we had Italians. It was just a mix. So I grew up in that. I grew up in that circle. So it's just, I never understood what racism was, because these are your friends. These are your people you grew up with. It was 20 guys, and it was a mixture of everybody. It was just our buddies. So you only started seeing that as we grew up, and I would go into another city and it'd be like, you know what, you'd see where people, I'd be with my buddy and you would see how people would look at him, and you'd realize like, okay, there is racism here, but in my circle growing up, I never understood it. So it's a very strong thing. Like you said, your upbringing is very important to eliminate that, and who you're around, and understanding culture. Culture is such a beautiful thing. And I think people don't engage in different cultures. They're brought up in one culture and they stick in that culture, and they don't, whether it's in understanding other people's ethnicities, foods, their languages, their upbringings. Like I love hearing stories. Like when I bring entrepreneurs on, I want to hear where you grew up. I want to hear what you did when you were a kid. Like I love hearing stories like that, because that's what makes the person, the fabric, who they are, right? So that's a big part of it, right? Where do you see ATM Movement 5 years from now?
Well,
besides having more hats than every Yankee had in the world, besides that, where do you see it? Where do you see ATM?
Where, like, I'll be honest with you, like one of my goals, like I want to be, like I want to be remembered as the guy, who never quit. But I also want to be remembered, like I want kids, I want kids, like young, young, hardworking kids to look at me and be like, hey, you know what? If Ricky made it, I can make it. You know what I mean? I want to be the inspiration for those kids. And yeah, man, 5 years from now, I see us, like taking over all over the world, seeing, like not only like doing what we do now, but diversifying. What I want to do is like, I want to start, building hotels. I want to launch a hotel. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
hotel chain, ATM hotels. And, I want to diversify. I want to take it to the next level. I want to, like launch a spaceship program, like, Elon Musk. But at the end of the day, that's like maybe like 10 years from now. 5 years from now, I want to do the hotel chain. I want to launch one. I want to have hotels all over Latin America, here in the US, and my hotels are going to be different. My hotels are going to be like, don't steal my idea, bro. Just kidding. So my hotels are going to be like, so check it out. We're going to be.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let me get a pen. No, I'm joking.
We're going to be technological. It's going to be different. The hotels is going to be self-check-in, also, it's going to be, like the best bed, the best bathroom, different, like no more like, they're going to be like hotels for entrepreneurs, you know what I mean? The best Wi-Fi in town, you know what I mean? So it's going to be a hotel like an office, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going to focus on making it like a super fancy hotel, but I want to get the most technological hotel. Also want to get the best views, because I'm a sucker for views. I love views. Every time I travel, like I'll try to book an Airbnb with the best view, because I don't know what is it about the views, man, but every time I see views, I'm like, damn.
It's you're living a postcard. I always say that. It's like it's almost like you're living a dream. Being there and having that view, you wake up and you feel inspired by it. It's like an inspiration in the morning, right? I love that too.
Exactly.
With everything you've done, it's funny that you kind of beat me to it. I always ask every guest, how, if you were to pass today, it's the same question I always ask everybody at the end. If you were to pass today, how do you want to be remembered? And you kind of jumped on that, which I appreciate that. I always ask somebody, I always ask another question as well, is if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. Oof. I love to duplicate myself, like to have more Rickies, like, because sometimes I feel
that's an entrepreneurial dream, right?
Yeah, man. I feel like I need more hours during the day, but yeah, man, it'll be nice, to be, like, I feel like at the end of the day, like it's all about, I wouldn't ask to, have a superpower of flying, because, I feel like you can make that happen. But another superpower, besides duplicating myself, could be, I don't know, having the power of learning everything, be a super quick learner.
Yeah. If yourself right now, when you were 20, did you vision yourself being here already? Did you feel yourself?
No. When I was 20, I was out of control, man. And the reason why I was out of control, now that I'm thinking, it was because I always had the entrepreneurial, thoughts and the mindset, right? But I was so, like forced into, go to school, that I felt trapped, you know what I mean? And I'll tell you more about, like how I graduated. My teachers, they hated me. And the reason why they hated me was because, like I would barely go to class. And when I would go to class, I'll be sleeping, And the reason why is because I guess I got ADHD. I don't know what, I have that's the, I don't know if it's a sickness or what was a condition,
Yeah.
but I have the deficit of learning, right? Oh, it's hard for me to pay attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I can tell you is that when I go to school, like I'll have a professor talking all slow, man, that shit will put me to sleep. I wouldn't, get it. So the way I actually, passed school was by doing everything on my own. I feel like I'm a self-taught engineer. Like I went to school, yes, I pay for my tuition, yes, but I learned my own shit on my own. I use YouTube, I use a little ebooks. I never bought a textbook in college. Everything was, PDF. What I can tell you is that in my 20s, I was, like trapped into that, that's all I knew. So I felt like I was going in circles. I was like, man. And that's why, I was like, partying a lot. I was, turning up because I wanted to escape from that, I didn't want that, So what I can tell you is that I didn't know any better. I didn't know my passion. And when you don't have your passion, when you don't discover what you really want to do in life, it's sad because you don't really enjoy what you do, So there's a lot of people out there, man. Think about it. Majority of the people, there's a lot of people that die and they never find their passion. They never find their purpose.
I would say probably over 80% of us.
Most definitely. And I feel like I'm thankful. I'm glad, that I was able to find my passion and my purpose, because who knows where I will be if I didn't find it. Who knows?
Yeah. It's an amazing feeling waking up every day and
Love what you do.
Yeah. It's almost like that European mindset where in North America, everybody seems programmed where they live to work. Everything's their job. And then you go to Europe and everybody's just sitting back, and 12 to 2 o'clock, all the stores are closed and they work to live. They make just the minimal just to go out and live and party, and enjoy themselves, right? So it's a different mindset. And I think as an entrepreneur, you start respecting, understanding that you realize how precious your time is and how important what you're doing, passive income, is.
Oh, I love it, man. I feel like what I love the most about passive income is that, think about it, it's like you don't have to worry about a paycheck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's more about you're building generational wealth. And also, passive income is so addictive that you want to, whatever you touch, you want to make passive income with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I just love passive income. I think that's the best way for you to actually, like make money.
Oh, of course. It's a way of making money with less effort as possible, right? And the least time as possible. I want one quick last question I want to ask you. Would you ever go back to living in Peru or South America?
I mean, I wouldn't. The reason why I wouldn't is because, whenever I'm on tour, I don't think I fit there. You know what I mean? It's like,
do you ever visualize yourself? I'm just looking at you as a person. Would you ever visualize yourself as in politics?
In politics, well, people a lot of people told me, I should get in politics, but you know what, man? I think, the politician, the politic games, or that whole environment is kind of like, it's too, like dirty for me. Yeah. There's always, there's something, it's not about, I'm not saying that everybody's like that, but politics, I mean, I don't believe in politics, first of all. Yeah. I feel like a president or a congressman is not they don't have effect on me, they ain't gonna do shit for me, I'm not waiting for a stimulus check. I don't care about what happens. I don't even watch the news. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, it's all about, I feel like it's all about the control that you have in your life. Like you start feeling it once, you start taking control of your life. You start, like doing your own thing. You don't have to depend on somebody else. So I feel like the biggest issue, talking about politics, the biggest issue in Latin America is that, they blame everything in the politicians. They blame everything in the president. They blame everything. They're corrupt. They're stealing money, and they might.
He brings a lot of blame on himself, though.
Yeah, but it might be happening, but at the same time, that shit shouldn't affect you. You know what I mean?
100%. I truly believe what you're saying, brother. Yeah, 100%. Just you do your own shit, man. I'm the type where, I'm very much like that. I don't pay attention to politics, and it's just the situation where it's like you don't let things like that dictate who you are or your business. You do what you have to do to survive, right?
Most definitely. And at the end of the day, like I feel like, there should be, like somebody in power, but at the end of the day, I think, I don't want to get too deep into that because, to be honest, I don't have that much knowledge, and I don't really like talking about things I don't know. Yeah. But when it comes to politics, I just don't know it that well, But what I can tell you, what I know, is that as far as I've been ignoring it. My life has been great, I mean,
yeah. Why I asked you originally was, you're obviously born in Peru. You're North American educated, highly educated. You're well-spoken. You're an entrepreneur. I just thought in my mind that it would be something where you'd want to go back and be a politician one day later on in life back home. That was my mindset with it. That's how I was asking you, because obviously being from where you are, you could probably make a lot of change there with your power later on in life. That was where I was going.
I think, and I definitely, I support your idea, but I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it, but not in that way. My way.
No, I hear you, buddy. You're gonna do it through your movement.
We gotta empower the people, bro. We gotta give the people the system, the tools, the technology. We gotta give people the information, and that's how you change everything. In life.
I appreciate
that. Revolution, bro.
I love it. We're gonna end it off like that. Pleasure having Ricky on today. Taking time on his busy schedule to be with us. On the show notes, I'm going to put all of Ricky's contact information, ATM Movement information, how to get a hold of Ricky, his social media, all that stuff like that. Once again, pleasure having you on, brother. Thank you for spending the time with us. Thank you, brother. Peace out.
Thank you for having me, boss. Thank you.
So wrap for today. Thank you for everyone taking the time out of your day to listen to the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. Special thanks to our guest, Ricky Cucalon from San Francisco. Great inspirational story. Great thing he's doing with his ATM movement. So I'm honored to have him on as a guest. Like always, if you guys enjoy this episode, please tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word. We're always trying to build something special here. Keep the movement going forward for the ATM movement with Ricky also. Hit the subscribe button, leave a review. 5 stars would be absolutely amazing. Until next week, always move forward.